Hi, hello. It's a beautiful evening. Tonight, we welcome you to the fragrance of Eden on Money Wounds. Fragrance of Eden on Money Wounds. Before I begin, I would like to dedicate this beautiful, beautiful podcast that has been birthed in my time of grief over my son, Prince Favor Baraka, as he rules and reigns and governs the heavens. I'm so proud of you. It is such an awesome blessing to have been the warmth that carried you, bathed you, stood at the gates as your threshold crosser to midwife as you left. Thank you so much. So, as we begin about our money wounds today, I just want to ask you, who taught you about money? Who introduced money to you? How did you relate with money? What was your first experience of money? Who spoke to you about money? Who first showed you money? I know most of us experienced money from our parents, but the influence of money, honestly, did not come from our parents. How money influences our thinking, our reasoning, our greed, our lust, our deceit. Most of us walk around the earth and they say proudly, like, I'm not greedy about money, I'm waiting. I've had people say that. I am content with what I have. And some people mean it. Most people who say that mean it. I am okay with what I have. I can live within what I make. I can manage and make do with what I have. This all is good. This is all great until somebody influential, somebody who influences your decision making patterns, somebody close to you, somebody who carries a kind of influence, pinpoints to you, criticizes you, applauds you, mirrors your reflection of money with them. It doesn't take someone to say something rude. It just takes somebody to say genuinely that you've been having the same handbag since I met you, which is 5 years ago. And I keep holding my breath. Every day you appear with the same handbag. And to you is a non-issue. But that particular projection from somebody who carries influence over you shifts your money thoughts. It allures, it configures your money thoughts. Let me just tell you how powerful money is. Money is so powerful that what we wear, what we drink, how we smell, what we drive, where we live, where we eat, where we do our holidays, where we invest on our children's education, whom we marry, whom we relate with, which church, mosque, temple we go to, where our children end up in college, which place, what is our biggest investment versus our needs. Our largest investment, houses, bonds, cars, real estate, farms. What else do we invest in? Our PhDs is all a reflection of what influences our money decisions. So when I speak about our money wounds, they mirror and reflect what we collectively bring inside us, what is the illusion that we see outside, the influence around us, the power around us, the intimidation that is thrown around when people have money and when people don't. You tend to notice some people will spend more on their appearance to make it look like they have money. And some people will be very okay, looking very basic, very okay with a tracksuit. They don't have to convince you they have money, yet they are rolling in money. What's the difference of the two? Money wounds. How you view money, your perspective on money, what money means to you, what money speaks to you. Money is paper. If the world today turned around money and said from today, we are not using dollars, we're not using sterling pounds, we're not using euros, we are not using Japanese yen, we are not using any of that. We're going to use money as the biggest rocks you can find or the smoothest rocks you can find. That would still work as money. What we have to go to see and understand what money means to you and what money means to me is the wounds, the festering wounds within us, the money wounds. But before we go to the money wounds, I just want to share something very, very intimate. That every money, each money, all money carries a voice. All money carries a voice. Every money that you transact with carries a voice. Money does not answer to currency. It answers to the transaction in the voice of the money. If the money you have been paid with or the money you utilize, the agreement was blood that someone's life has to end, it will always transact and answer to that calling. That's the prompt. If the money that is exchanged between you and someone else is under the covenant of deceit, it will come to you as money, but it will always call out in the voice of the transaction, which is the deceit it was obtained at. If the money comes in corruption, if the money comes in labor, if the money comes in rightfully, there are people who honestly work for their money. They labor for their money. They have never encountered any form of money that comes to them by virtue of any other transaction. But I have to speak to you about this. Most people don't make money honestly. Most people carry a cover that allows them to make money at a workplace, but they are able to manipulate systems within the working environment that allows them to make money, extra money. So the cover for the money is legal. but the extra money they make is not legal. Now that becomes a legality. So one of the things that you have to understand is that as you build wealth, as you acquire wealth, as you build yourself financially, as you invest, as you work with money and transact with money, you have a currency within you. This is in your DNA, within your bloodline, that speaks about the currency that you carry. In my line of work, I come across a lot of legalities which are based on money and money wounds and money transactions in my line of work. You tend to notice that people use money, acquire money. This can be generationally, this can be through relationships. This comes in powerfully through marriage. Marriage is one of the vehicles that bring money together. If you don't do your due diligence, you might marry into a family that carries money, but the legality of the money you don't understand. So the currency that the person brings to you and the currency that you carry. I've seen people who carry diligence as a currency. I've seen people who their money speaks multiplication. I've seen people whom their money, the currency within them, speaks dwindling. I've seen people who have such a strong money currency within them that flows within them. It speaks. It's like farming, but it's not really virtual. It's not practical farming. It is the increase of an abundance, increase and abundance, increase and abundance over generations. And I've seen people who carry currencies that can put you to zero. They can remove you from whatever place that you are. This is just by bringing money together. This is by cooperating with someone else. They can remove your money from the place that you have placed yourself strategically and bring you down just by you partnering with them. When I'm speaking about partnering and the voice of money, it does not mean doing a business with them. It does not mean paying school fees through them. It means just you paying them a small fee that you're paying them 7,000 at the end of the month for a certain service. For a certain service. You understand? That service you're paying for. That service you're paying for kind of corrupts your money. That service you're paying for corrupts your money, corrupts what you're building. Slowly, by the time you realize that there is a corruption, by the time you realize that by the time you realize that there is a coup, by the time you realize there is a haste, you're not really able to tell very well where the money issue is coming in from. Why you seem to be losing substantial amounts of money, substantial amounts of investments. Why you seem to be losing favor with certain people or certain personalities or certain financial aspects that you had banked in or you had invested in. Why? Because the currency of the person you're dealing with. So it is very important to do your due diligence when dealing with people. You need to check people, vet people. You vet people when you're buying farms. You vet the information you're given when you're buying a farm. You vet the information you're given when you're paying school fees. I mean, you pay school fees to institutions that you have done a due diligence on. You vet and do your due diligence when you're buying a car. You vet and do your due diligence when you're investing in an insurance policy. You do the reviews, you check on the reviews, you check on what people have said, what they have said, what they think, what their feedback is. You vet restaurants you're going to eat in. And the reviews give you a preconceived mindset about the facility that you're eating in or the facility you're taking your family to eat in. So why don't you vet the people you're investing in? Why don't you vet the people you are coming into business with? Why don't you vet the person you're giving 7,000 shillings a month? I know maybe 7,000 is not a lot, but it is enough for them to transfer the virtue that you carry, begin a haste on you, rob you, deceive you. Virtues are transferred. Someone can literally transfer the virtue that you carry, monetary wise, through access. Actually, the only thing they need from you is access. That's the only. The Bible says, woe unto him who builds his house by unrighteousness, and his upper rooms by injustice. Woe unto him. That does not mean that in 5 years, what the foundation you use will come down. It just means that there is a day of reckoning for what you build and how you build it and what the foundation is. And the voice of that money speaks. It doesn't matter how much you clean it and wash it. It speaks. So we are looking at the wounds, the money wounds. So I want to come into this place and ask you, how did you learn about money? Who introduced you to money? I know most of us think our money wounds come from our parents. Yes, they come from our parents. Because most of the time we were denied what we felt we wanted, not really needed. We felt like we were not prioritized. I'm a parent and I've been in that conversation more than once. I've been and I'm learning now more than ever to say no. No, to say no. I've shopped and done things that I felt later were not well thought through. They were not what I needed. They were what I wanted because I felt I wanted them. Yes. Our money wounds come from the place of our background most of the time. How our parents struggled. The people who were in charge of us. The custodians, the ones who were there in our life. How we saw them struggle. How much we saw them waste what they had and not prioritize us. How we saw them spend and not give us what was needed. Yes, it happens in families. And it is in the same light that children manipulate you. And children also are mischievous with what you have. So our money wounds mirror and reflect our background, where parents strived and suffered and scraped and worked, but were not able to generate enough. The mirror that the wound that the children began to develop was anxiety, was nervousness around money. If you lived in an atmosphere where you were told that you have stolen money, which happened mostly to people of my age and above, I think there's more, today parents are more educated and more aware of mental health issues. Before, somebody would steal money from a house, not necessarily somebody in that house, just somebody who had access to the house. And the parent would react by saying, "You took my money." And if you came from a big family where there were money accusations, you're not confident with money. If you came from a family where families scraped and scraped and scraped for more than 16, 17, 18, 19 years, your money, how you viewed money, was you weaponized money. If you came from a place where you saw abuse to your mother and denial to your mother, violence, when I speak about abuse, I'm speaking about violence, where your mother works and they are abused over the money. Money abuse is so rampant in families. It doesn't have to be violent. This is something I would like to speak about. Money abuse is where one parent is the donkey. One parent is responsible and shamed by another for providing. They shame the parent who provides by denying her recognition, by shaming her sweats, by making it look useless. Why are you always talking about money? What big thing does your money do? Yet she is the one who feeds the family, clothes the family, provides school fees for the family, pays the rent, pays the school van, buys the books, buys the shoes, pays for hospital. And all she does is becomes invalidated by the person who does not provide. The wound that that child carries is the invalidation of the money and the way to abuse and access money. They are trained by watching how to access money from other people while gaslighting, invalidation, emasculating the person, shaming them. So you will meet people who have money, not a lot of money. We are speaking of money wounds. We are speaking basically of any kind of money, little, much, more, average, it doesn't matter. And you will meet somebody who invalidates your 2,000 shillings, invalidates your 10,000 shillings, invalidates your 1 million shillings. Because it doesn't matter how much you give, it doesn't matter how much you provide, you feel shamed into submitting to provide for them. Because this is what you saw where you came from. You saw somebody break themselves, somebody configure themselves to please another person. And then it doesn't matter if you're sick, It doesn't matter if you're unwell. It does not matter if you're incapacitated. I'm speaking about, I've seen somebody pay for themselves maternity in hospital, pay the taxi home. Well, you were there to have a baby through CS or normal. Stop on the taxi home and somebody gets into a supermarket and you pay for the groceries as you get ready for taking care of the baby. Of course, you need like 3 or 4 weeks before you're on your feet. It takes a bit of time. But the person still shames you, invalidates you, minimizes you, breaks you down. So when I speak about money abuse, it doesn't have to be physical. It has to be mental manipulation. When someone asks you, you're always talking about you're tired, you're paying rent, you're paying for this, you're paying for this. I mean, what is this? That is what you can pay. That is what you can afford. That is what you work to pay every day of your life. Yet they do not see it in any form value or do not esteem it in any way. That is money abuse. There are people who feel, coming from those kind of backgrounds, that they will do it and do it and do it and do it because they need to get accredited. But that person is not going to accredit you. That person is not going to recognize you and your efforts. Even if you break your back, they will siphon from you. The only thing they are taking virtually, physically, is money. They will siphon. These are vampires, human vampires. They will drink your strength, drink your virtue. They will take away from you your strength, virtue, your glory, your happiness, your joy. They will take the only time that you can rest. And because you have been programmed and indoctrined from the background you come from, that the transaction you make is not complete. You are held in a kind of vice and in a kind of yoke to want to appease other people by your labor. So your money wounds search for the person in your mother who labored and in your father who abused, or the other way around. A father who labored and provided and sweated every day, and a woman who was unsatisfied and never saw anything good out of it. So your money wound just keeps going and going and going until somebody says, hey, we earn the same salary. And I'm speaking from a place of love. We make the same money, if I'm not wrong. But you can hardly even get yourself fruits during lunch break. And of course, because you're used to being shamed, you're used to being invalidated, you begin to give the reasons why you're not able. So the first time you hear it as abuse, the first time you hear it from someone else, the wound that you carry. Some of us come from backgrounds where buying cars is a statement. It was the biggest wish list we had. Like a car was such a big thing. Like the neighbors who had cars were the it. And it is in this environment that you had that cars are fueled for 300 or 250 shillings daily. I'm thinking about then. And that 200 shillings was your 3-day budget at home. So you grew up thinking a car is like the definition, what defines wealth. Gladly, today, a car is a necessity. As much as not all homes have them, it is actually a necessity. It is not really like a big deal. It is not something that if I say to somebody when I have an emergency, please help me with your car, I need to rush to hospital, or I have this emergency, someone will say, no, you cannot use my car. If someone calls me and says, I need to use your car, my husband or my wife or my child is in this, I'll just say, okay, send someone to pick up the key. As long as they are responsible people. But we did grow up when cars were the it. And we developed a money wound where you find people buying cars not because they need the car, just because it defines something in them that tells them you have been able to come out from that particular programming of not having a car. Whereas I find very healthy people today, young, especially younger people than me, who buy cars. I'm impressed because they need them for this, and this, and this, their necessities. I'm finding people who are buying homes, and I'm finding more people who are not investing in real estate because they come from a background like real estate was the it. Real estate is a big investment, is a great investment. Most of our parents and people my age or older than me come from the background of real estate, rental property, homes. Before there was retirement, someone would acquire 2 or 3 pieces of land. Real estate was the it. But as we diversify, there are so many investments today. I saw a lady, her name is Pam McTollum, on FB, and she shared she invested in real estate in Bungoma or Busia, one of those places. And the investment she made did not give her the returns that she needed. And when she did the mathematics of how long the return is, I think it came to around 20 years. And she gave a different option. What if she had done money market? What if she had done a bond for 20 years? What if she had done business? That is not everybody's story. That is just somebody's story. That is just somebody's story. I have seen people who do farming nowadays. Farming was not as lucrative as it was before. It wasn't because people were not harvesting and farms were not yielding, they were yielding. And it's just that there was so much middlemen, there was so much corruption. It would completely leave the farmer molested out of his produce by middlemen. I think the market today is open. We have choice. I am a farmer. I farm maize, wheat, and potatoes. I am not where I want to be, but I have a bit of experience on this. I have a friend who farms. She does cows. She does milk, large scale milk. And I was shocked to see just how much milk. I have a phobia for cows. That's a story for another day. But she has been able to multiply what cows give and completely demystify everything I thought about cows. And she's not the only one. I follow a lot of farming. So, what is the currency that you carry? What is the money wound that is inside you? How do you see money? How do you relate to money? How do you understand money? What is the currency that is inside you? Let me tell you, everything is spiritual. Life is spiritual. There are people who carry there are people, if you bring them to your company and offer them a job for 20,000 shillings only, they will turn around the operations of your company and put your company in a pedestal profit margins in corporate grains. Merge your company and you're paying them 20,000 shillings. What is different about them? The currency that they carry. I saw a lady, she came to me in July, she came to me in June, and she does real estate. And she asked me, she has a daughter-in-law, and I would say she's a young woman with a daughter-in-law and 3 grandchildren. And she said to me that she has been grooming her daughter-in-law, who did not have anything to do because she was taking care of the children. And she has put her in charge of picking up the rent instead of bringing an agent, of overseeing the construction that she is doing, of overseeing. She has a water. She did a very beautiful investment years ago. Where she lived, where she's built, there was no water. So she kind of got the water from underground and built a very big thing for water. And mostly everybody who came to build and buy and invest there connects water from her. So everybody pays her for the investment that she did a couple of years ago. So it paid her big time. So she manages the daughter-in-law. She is a small girl. She's a young girl, about 27, 28, manages the water, manages, so everything. So she is paying the girl about 30,000 a month. And the reason she came to see me, she wanted to understand the currency the girl carries. Oh, I'm being nice. The currency in the girl. So we found out 5 things. She is mentoring the girl. Remember, this young girl Her husband is her oldest son and heir apparent. You know, like firstborn is the heir, then the secondborn, the thirdborn, and the fourthborn. She has 4 children, 3 sons and 1 daughter. So she's putting in place measures. And she also does something different on the side that keeps her very busy. She's not able to deal with the real estate. So she has agents and agents. She has to go. So she thought this is something that can keep this young girl busy. She gets someone to take care of the children who are not going to school, the 2 children, and one is in, she's being taken care of at home. We found out the currency that she carries. We found out what she will be in 20 years from now. We found out very beautiful things. But we also found out where she needs to streamline. Because apparently this beautiful girl she's grooming and mentoring will step into her shoes and reign and rule. And because of the mentoring that is being done now, the other 3 children might not get very good access because this girl is going to study this blueprint very well. You understand? The girl is actually going to, because it's happening, it's ongoing. She's actually going to be able to tap into her mentor, who is a mother-in-law, and be able to remove virtue and credentials and be able to stand on her own and seat herself on that throne of real estate and reign and rule. It is a good thing, but with other 3 children, she needs to put things in place for the other 2 sons and the daughter, who is now in, she's in the last Form 3. Yeah, the last Form 3. Yeah. So when I speak about money wounds, when I speak about transactions, what transactions we carry, when the transaction is exploitation, how you come into access into money, what money means to you. To a doctor, most of the money is secondary because they're under oath. But as time goes for this doctor, the oath still stays, but he branches off into pharmaceuticals. He branches off into a side clinic. You understand? Money does not leave you the same. Money will always follow a voice. To the banker, it's about the growth of the money, the multiplication of the money, the diversification of the money. How well versed you are with the money and you're able to manage and increase it. To the farmer, it's about the harvest, the multiplication in matters of harvest. But at the end of the day, the money is what makes the difference. So all of us are programmed to look at money. The banker looks at it from multiplication. The farmer looks at it from yield. The teacher looks at it from impactfulness. The doctor looks at it from diversification. What is your forte? How do you see money? How do you understand how you shop? What you invest in? Why is it that you have a home and you don't have a business? Why is it so important that you got the home first? Why is it so important to somebody else that they got the business first? Why is it so important to somebody else that they got the car first? Why is it so important to somebody else that they got their mother or father or family a home first? Why is it so important to someone else that they do not have a home, yet education, where their children go to school, is so pricey that you when you first had how much they're spending on fees, you were like, wow. Why is it that they invest so highly in the education of their children? Why is it that some parents today, I've seen this a lot, and I would like to do that. I would love to do that. Invest in the traveling of their children, the exposure of different culture, diverse cultures. They're actually mentoring their children to become global citizens. What is it a reflection of? Why is it that you know somebody who has so much, and all throughout their years, they have maintained one car all throughout their time in their years? Their wife drives whatever is trending, but for them, they are in their KCD. They've had it, they are faithful with it, not that they cannot afford it. Their children are in the best colleges, they are doing very well. What is your money want? What is the currency? You need to be able to tell what money wound you carry. You need to be able to tell what currency runs in you. When you hold money, what does money speaks about you? Does it multiply? Does it diversify? Does it grow? Does it begin to build a background against you? How do you make your money? How you make your money reflects powerfully on what money says about you, on what currency you hold, on what defines you. Let me tell you something very weird. I will say it's weird. I will go into that later, but let me just mention it here. Do you understand that the person you marry and spend your life with determines where and how you grow financially? The person you marry. Yes. Yes. They determine. Forget about how you communicate. Forget about your interests together. Forget about everything else. They determine financially your wealth and how far you go. Let me give you an example. For women, they carry wealth in their wombs. So the interaction from the man to the woman through the womb determines the transaction that is happening between them and what the end result is. This is part one on money wounds. I would like you to leave me a question, a concern, anything that you have picked up and anything that you would like me to go into on the voice of money and the transactions of money. Currencies that we carry. What defines us when we speak money? What is your money want? Thank you so much for giving me your beautiful time. We get to speak to you later.